Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Thursday, May 11, 2023, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The white Marine who killed the black man on the subway in New York City, he is going to be arrested for manslaughter. We'll give you the latest on that case out of New York City. Title 42 is going to be ending soon, and the Biden administration is announcing what it is going to do about migrants trying to come into the country. Republicans are all up in arms. The Biden administration says they have a plan to deal with. Yeah. Go. All right, folks, slight audio issue there. Today is Thursday, May 11, 2023, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The white Marine who killed the black man in the subway in New York City is going to be arrested for manslaughter. We'll get the latest out of the city of New York. Also, Title 42 is ending. The Biden administration explains what they're going to do about migrants trying to come into the United States. We'll talk to a guest about that as well. Also on today's show, CNN aired a debacle last night, allowing a narcissistic, lying, sexually assaulting, tax cheating thug to lie repeatedly on the air. I will break down and deconstruct that shameful journalistic, if you want to call it that, display that took place last night. And Alabama has a racist representing them in the United States Senate, Tommy Tuberville. He says, no problem. If you're a white supremacist, sure, you can serve in the military because you're an American and a Republican. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Issues. Title 42, which was a COVID-related procedure that allowed the White House administration to determine who could come in and out of the country, is going to be ending very soon. And the Biden administration is taking their precautions. The Secretary of Homeland Security spoke today about what that means.
Tonight at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, the pandemic-era Title 42 public health order will end. Starting at midnight, people who arrive at our southern border will be subject to our immigration enforcement authorities under Title 8 of the United States Code. Here is what that means. If anyone arrives at our southern border after midnight tonight, they will be presumed ineligible for asylum and subject to steeper consequences for unlawful entry, including a minimum 5-year ban on re-entry and potential criminal prosecution.
And now Republicans, they are blaming President Joe Biden, saying he is causing this massive migrant crisis. You also have, of course, Republican governors like Greg Abbott of Texas, who shipped 17,000 migrants to various cities, sanctuary cities, including Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, as well as Washington, D.C. Joining us from L.A. is Danae Joseph, an immigrant rights activist. Glad to have you on the show. So, Danae, first and foremost, for the folks who don't understand policies and different procedures, so explain Title 42 and it ending in a few hours.
Sure. So Title 42 is actually a very archaic policy. It dates back to 1944. It allows the United States government to be able to quickly expel migrants citing a public health crisis like that of COVID-19 that we most recently experienced and are still experiencing. So, for instance, if someone came to the United States and even if they had a very valid claim to be able to seek asylum, the United States would deny them their constitutional right and their fundamental human right in being able to seek asylum simply because they are deemed to be a public health condition and would violate the public health of those in the United States and would use that as a reason to quickly expel them from the country. So we have examples of individuals just coming to the United States for a few hours and being expelled without us having any evidence that they were granted their due process in order to seek their very viable asylum claims.
Now, so you got people who are coming from different countries, some that have been traveling for months. So what is expected to happen now?
So what's expected to happen now is, remember, a lot of individuals have been stuck in Mexico for months and years. And so under Title 42, as started in March 2020 by the former twice impeached president, liable president, indicted president, we saw that he utilized that as a very problematic and inhumane deportation policy for immigrants. It became nothing about public health because, as we saw, we have individuals coming from Ukraine without incident. We have individuals who are boarding military planes from Afghanistan without incident. And yet Title 42 was not cited for those individuals who were granted refugee status in the United States. So now what we're now allowing consideration for is for the Haitians, the Mexican, the individuals who are coming from Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, to be considered for their rightful asylum claims. And now they're going to be granted that process to do so. However, as you just heard the Secretary of Homeland Security say, this is going to be far from a cakewalk, right? We are criminalizing individuals who have viable claims for asylum. These are individuals who are fleeing poverty, political instability, and literally have the right to do so. But now we're criminalizing them and saying that they should be subject to 5-year bans, meaning that they would not be able to present themselves for asylum claims until 5 years from now. And they're going to be granted harsher penalties simply because they dared to grant themselves and their family members a better life.
All right, folks, not sure what's going on with our microphones, but we're working through it. All right, so here's the thing. You got Republicans and many other people who are saying that this is a travesty. We have this massive crisis in this country. Do we really have a crisis in this country?
We do not have a crisis in this country. Let's be absolutely clear, right? Asylum is a human right. Asylum is a right that's permitted by the United States of America. For the past 3 years, since March 2020, we have denied individuals coming from across the world of their fundamental human right to seek asylum. This is not an emergency. This is not a crisis. This is us dealing with something that would have happened regardless, if not for the former twice impeached president of the United States using this as immigration policy. These individuals came anyway. Bear in mind that when this policy was cited, Title 42 was cited, it was meant to be a deterrence, right? It was meant to stop people from coming to the country. And so even though there is record of 1.5 million people being expelled from the country, there's 2.5 million times in which Title 42 was enacted in order to expel people. Do you know what that means? That means that these are the same individuals who came back multiple times in order to try to get their asylum cases heard. This isn't a crisis. This is just the Biden administration now having to deal with something that has been happening anyway. It's just now they're going to utilize this as an excuse. And in fact, if there's anyone to blame for this backlog, because that's exactly what it is, it's just a backlog of existing cases that would have happened anyway. This is now just allowing the Biden administration to be able to deal with these matters anyway, because the vast majority of the United States and the people who are here in the United States have valid claims for asylum. These are people who are struggling. These are individuals who are fleeing the violence in their country. These are people who are fleeing the poverty. Look at Venezuela in their country. These are individuals coming from Haiti, fleeing the political instability, given the fact that their president was recently assassinated, Moise, right? So this isn't a public health crisis. This isn't a national state of emergency. This is just us having to deal with the existing individuals who have very viable claims for asylum.
All right, Janine Joseph, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, thank you very much. When we come back, we'll talk about this with our panel and break down the other news of the day. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, Dave.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
That was a pivotal time. I remember Kevin Hart telling me that. He's like, man, what you doing, man? You got to stay on stage. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm young, thinking, like, I'm good. And he was absolutely right.
What show did you have at the time?
This was one-on-one.
Got it.
During that time.
So you're doing one-on-one, going great, you making money, you like...
I'm like, I don't need to leave. I don't need to leave from, Wednesday, Thursday to Sunday. I didn't want to do that. It was just like, I'm gonna stay here. Or I didn't want to finish work Friday, fly out, go do a gig Saturday, Sunday. I was like, I don't have to do that. And I lost a little bit of that hunger that I had in New York. I would hit all the clubs, run around. Sometimes me and Chappelle or me and this one or that one, we'd go to the Comedy Cellar at 1 a.m. And that was our life. We loved it. You do 2 shows in Manhattan, go to Brooklyn, leave Brooklyn, go to Queens, go to Jersey. And I got complacent. I was like, I got this money, I'm good. I don't need to go chase that, because that money wasn't at the same level that I was making, but what I was missing was that training.
Yes.
Was that.
And it wasn't the money.
It was the money. It was that's what I needed.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we look at one of the most influential and prominent Black Americans of the 20th century. His work literally changed the world. Among other things, he played a major role in creating the United Nations. He was the first African American and first person of color to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And yet today, he is hardly a household name. We're talking, of course, about Ralph J. Bunche. A new book refers to him as the absolutely indispensable man.
His lifelong interest and passion in racial justice, specifically in the form of colonialism. And he saw his work as an activist and advocate for the Black community here in the United States, as just the other side of the coin of his work trying to roll back European empire in Africa.
Author Cal Rostiala will join us to share his incredible story. That's on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Hey everybody, it's your girl Lunel.
So what's up? This is your boy Earthquake.
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, let's introduce our panel today. Joining us, Reese Cobra, host of the Reese Cobra Show on Sirius XM Radio out of D.C., Lauren Victoria Burke, Black Press USA, Arlington, Virginia, Pastor Lee May, Transformation Faith Church, and former CEO of DeKalb County, Georgia. All right, glad to have y'all here. So here's the thing here, Reese, and that is Republicans are making as if there's this, oh my God, the border, it is out of control. They're flowing in by the millions. And this is just causing all of these problems in America, as if we actually don't have an immigration system, that this literally has been happening every day for decades in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, Republicans have been one of the primary impediments of actually getting meaningful immigration reform, particularly the Republicans in Congress, because on a bipartisan basis, I won't give Donald Trump any credit, there has been an appetite from presidents on both sides of the aisle to actually fix the obviously badly decaying immigration system. The reality, though, is that even with the obstruction from the Republicans in Congress, the Biden-Harris administration has found a way to get some of the border crossings and all the other stuff down by implementing technology, creating an app where people can actually apply for asylum there, particularly for people from Nicaragua, Haiti, and I forget the other country. I want to say El Salvador. And so, immigration is just one of those topics where you're never going to really win in this environment because there's a lot of xenophobia, there's a lot of fear stoking that's involved. But I'm a lot more concerned about the fact that we've had more mass shootings in this country than days of the year, and the fact that we are at a point now where we have so many mass shootings in one day that it's about whichever one has the most number of fatalities or hits the news first that we end up even talking about for longer than 3 hours. And so we have pressing issues in this country. And if we would actually be logical about the immigration instead of hysterical, I think we'd get more done. And the last thing I just want to say is that the number one problem in immigration is not people crossing the border or people seeking asylum. It's people overstaying their visas. But those folks don't look like Black and brown people that the boogeyman in the migrant caravans, and so they're shoulder shrugging at that particular problem.
Lee, when you see governors like Greg Abbott and others, Ron DeSantis, flying migrants off to other different cities, saying, oh, it's now your problem, dropping them off at the vice president's house in Washington, D.C. I mean, those are all photo ops. It's all about histrionics by these conservatives.
Yeah, man, it's ridiculous, really. It has nothing to do with public policy. It has nothing to do with fixing, in their mind, a broken immigration system. It has to do with political gamesmanship, right? Who can get the one up? And it's really ridiculous. If we call ourselves a nation of compassion, a nation of love, I guess you would say, how we are dealing and addressing this immigration system from a political standpoint looks nothing like what we say on paper. And we know the history of this nation is that what we say we believe, on paper, in our Constitution, in our Bill of Rights, and all these things that we say we hold high, we very rarely, I hate to say it, but we very rarely stand up to that. I look at it as a Christian pastor. I look at it as how we truly loving our neighbor. Right? How we, in a very practical way, through public policy, loving our neighbor. And if you look at what Jesus said in terms of loving our neighbor, the example he gave was a good Samaritan, right? The Samaritan and the Jew. They weren't friends. They didn't have common backgrounds, common histories. But yet, when the Jewish man was in need, the Samaritan showed up when his own Jewish brothers wouldn't even help him. He was broke, busted, and disgusted on the side of the road. And so you look at how we're dealing with our brothers, right, who don't share the same kind of background and history and story, may not even look the way that we look or talk the same language. How are we addressing that? And for me, I'm like, that shouldn't be a partisan kind of thing. So for people who claim the faith that I hold high, the Christian faith, if you want to put it forward in all these other public policy kind of things, how is that showing up in your immigration policy? Putting somebody on a bus, lying to them in one city and saying you're taking them someplace, but then dropping them off in Washington, D.C. or at another state is ridiculous.
Well, look, here's the deal, Lauren. We always know, we know we got these fake, hypocritical, so-called Christians on the conservative side, so we know exactly how that goes. But you also there are folks in the black community, people who are anti-immigrant, who claim that is significantly hurting African Americans. But again, the point I keep making is we've always had immigration. And so this notion that somehow we've never had it, we have. We've always had this. There are people who we have laws that allow people to claim asylum for a variety of reasons. You have to have a process. This notion that you could just shut everything off, that's just unrealistic.
Yeah, we've always had it, but we haven't had it as the political football as we have it today. And really, social media and a lot of other things allow us to sort of send these images of everybody across the border, this and that. That's sort of the new part that we haven't had. Also, I think the Democratic Party is confused on this issue. I think that they're listening to James Carville. They're trying to go after the white moderate voter on this issue. You saw how tough President Obama was on immigration. He deported a record number of people. I feel like what we're going to see from President Biden is something very similar to that. I think he's going to try to prove that he can, throw people out of the country really fast. And, facts and the details of who seeks asylum to the United States really don't seem to matter to anybody in these debates. I think the asylum seekers are coming from the Middle East, or most of the applications are coming from the Middle East. But we're always talking about Mexico like all the time, and obviously that's about race. That's about the fact that they've become a political football, and the Republican Party is leaning really heavily into all sorts of issues around that. I think it was yesterday, the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, did a fentanyl event. It was like fentanyl day, or fentanyl overdose day, or something. So there's a whole big political reason, obviously, that Mexican immigrants in particular have been made into a football, and that's where we are on this front. And to Reese's point, the Republican Party has no policy around this. Every time somebody tries to actually do some detailed policy specific to the Mexican border, the Republicans don't want that because they want it as a political issue.
Yep. All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. When we come back, we're going to talk about the shooting in Allen, Texas. Funerals are being planned, being held, but also the survivors are also dealing with the aftermath of that as well. We'll discuss that next. And, of course, Alabama dealing with a racist U.S. senator in the name of Tommy Tuberville. We'll talk about his comments where he is more than welcoming of white supremacists in the U.S. military. Plus, we'll talk about that debacle of a town hall on CNN last night. What an absolute joke. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Up next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, we're going to talk to Leslie Segar, a.k.a. Big Les, and talk about her incredible career as a dancer, choreographer, and VJ of Rap City.
Magic Johnson was there, so half the NBA was there. Iman the supermodel, so all the supermodels were there every day. Actors, right. Like it was a who's who of who's who.
Right here on The Frequency in the Black Star Network.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Black TV does matter, dang it.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Jacob Lattimore, and you're now watching Roland Martin right now. Yee.
Family and friends in Allen, Texas are preparing funerals for the 7 people who were killed by the white supremacists who took them out at that mall, folks, on Saturday. But it's not just those who are in pain, those who lost loved ones. You also have those who were wounded. 8 people were wounded by that murderer, including Irvin Walker II, who's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He was one of the first victims to be shot. He was driving past the shooter's car when he was shot 3 times in the chest. Joining me now is his attorney, Daryl K. Washington. Daryl, you're representing Irvin Walker. So what is the status of his condition?
Roland, just as early as today, Irvin had another procedure done. So it's been a day-by-day situation. Unfortunately, with the injuries that Irvin sustained and with some of the bullet shots, it's just been very difficult to remove all the bullet fragments. So this is something that's going to stick with Irvin for the rest of his life. But I tell you, man, he has been an extremely positive person, very uplifting. You go to the hospital, feeling bad for Irvin, but he's still being his same self, man, trying to uplift people. But it definitely was a life-changing situation for him.
Obviously the shooter was killed by authorities, but what assistance are the folks at the mall offering Irvin and the other folks who were wounded?
We have not heard back from the mall at all, Roland. And that's why I came into it. I have been investigating the situation. There are a number of things that are very concerning to us. One being the fact that all we've heard about thus far was the fact that one security guard was killed. Well, I have not heard about there being other security guards on the premises, which is very concerning because, as on a Saturday there are thousands of people who are at that shopping center. So we would hope that there were at least 5 to 10 security officers who are out at the scene. Another thing that's very concerning is this: the guy who was shot. We've heard now that he had up to 8 guns in his vehicle, and what they're reporting is that the guns that he had in his vehicle were all legally purchased. Now, here's the problem with that. We know that this guy was kicked out of the military after being in for less than 3 months. They say that this guy had mental health issues. Our biggest concern is when an individual is kicked out of the military, the government has reporting requirements that they are required to do. And we want to see why somebody like this, somebody who was diagnosed with having serious mental issues, was able to have access to an AR-15 and other guns.
So, and obviously, you have Texas Governor Greg Abbott. He's spending more time commenting about the border than he is this shooting.
Yeah, it's, the first thing that Greg Abbott said about this shooting, Roland, was that it was mental health. You can go back to every clip of when we've had some type of mass shooting here in Texas and throughout the country. Greg Abbott has always been quick to label this as a mental health crisis. But what has he done about mental health? Absolutely nothing. What we know, Roland, this guy was an evil person that had easy access to guns because of how our governor has made it easy for people to have access to guns. We clearly have a gun control issue, and I think unless we get these things under control, it's going to continue to happen. And just raising the age to 21 is not the answer.
All right, Daryl Washington, if people want to assist Irvin Walker, how can they do so?
2 things, Roland. One of the things I want to ask people to do is continue to pray for Irvin, because he's definitely felt the prayers and support that he's received from everyone. And there's also a GoFundMe account that's been established by his fraternity brothers, Alpha Phi Alpha. So Irvin, we know that it's going to be a long road to recovery, and there's going to be quite some time for Irvin to get back to work. I mean, this is something that he's dealing with. It's not only physical pain, but mental pain. So we asking people to dig deep inside and do all they can to support Irvin as he recovers.
All right, then. Attorney Daryl Washington, we surely appreciate it. And so give Brother Walker our best.
I will. Thank you, Roland.
Thanks a bunch. Lauren, the point that he makes there, again, Greg Abbott immediately went to mental health, but this same Greg Abbott who cut $211 million from mental health. Republicans yell out mental health, but they voted against a bill to add money for mental health in Congress. Again, so it's like you're saying one thing, but you're actually doing another.
Yeah, their strategy on guns is basically to just sort of wait until the media moves on to another subject and hope that another shooting doesn't happen that they have to explain, because, of course, they have no policy explanation whatsoever. You know, the bigger question, and you touched on it a little bit there, Roland, is who's liable for this legally? Because, of course, the gun manufacturers cannot be sued. And so if someone buys a gun that has some mental health issue and somehow that doesn't get uncovered when the gun is sold to them, one would think maybe that the gun seller is liable. But ultimately, because the public policy around the gun issue is completely failing right now in terms of any real change, these things are happening and people are getting murdered, and then there's no liability on anybody. And that has become a huge issue around this issue right now.
Oh, well, Lee, we saw in Tennessee where after that shooting, Republicans immediately moved to provide immunity to gun manufacturers after a shooting.
Yeah, man, it's the craziest thing, man. And here's the reality, man. You know, the governor, and really it's a Republican talking point. You know, when I'm on here, yeah, I used to be in political office. I ran as a Democrat. I served as a Democrat. But a lot of these issues, man, are not Democrat or Republican. They're just basic humanity issues, right? And the reality is, man, this nation is steeped in violence. The very foundation, the forming of this nation was through violence, and all throughout the course of our history, it's been violence, man. This is Mental Health Awareness Month, and my wife, Robin May, is a mental health therapist, man. And the reality is, man, this nation is suffering from the trauma and drama of this violence propensity that we have here. And so when they throw out things like mental health, man, that's a scapegoat. That's just the reality is they are refusing to do anything around public policy to really diminish the fact that if somebody does get a gun and they go off and do something crazy like a mass shooting, why do we need AKs in people's hands, AR-15? Why do people need that in their hands to go around? And man, until we take this from a real humanities standpoint and really address the reality that this nation's history is steeped in violence, and until you begin to build up, so you create laws, and I'll go off on for a while on this, but you create laws not for the people who abide by the laws, but for the people who are going to break the laws. Even if that's a minority, the minority can do a lot to hurt and harm the majority. And so I'm going to say this one scripture because I'm a Christian pastor, right? Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but value others higher than yourselves, man. All these people want to keep guns and say, don't touch my guns, man. If again, going back, if you call yourself a Christian, what about the people that are affected by these rash of mass shootings because of this gun violence?
So here's the deal, Reese. So if they say it's all about mental illness, where are the rash of mental ill bills?
Well, they could say whatever they want to say because who's going to check them? The bottom line is in Texas, you know, Abbott overwhelmingly won, even though Texas is the mass shooting capital of the country. They had some of the largest mass shootings in history and even in the recent decade. And so the Republicans have found that there is no amount of carnage that is going to turn the American voting public away from that party and enact consequences. This was a huge issue. I mean, even before the midterms, we had Buffalo, we had Uvalde, and we still saw Republicans take back the House. They didn't win every Senate seat that they needed to win. However, the governors still mostly maintained, the incumbent governors mostly maintained their advantage. And so there's no political price for them to pay when it comes to voters. And as long as people continue to sit on the sidelines and moan and complain about whatever little gripe they have with the Democratic Party, the Republicans are going to be able to obstruct any kind of progress on this issue. And people are going to continue to die in mass at grocery stores, churches, you name it.
Yep, but that's also why I say for the people who want to see changes, guess what? You have to completely vote all of them out. That's what it boils down to. I mean, so folks, again, complaining about something is one thing, but actually using your power and evicting them from office is a whole other thing. All right, folks, going to break. We come back. Tommy Tuberville, U.S. Senator from Alabama, truly one of the dumbest people that's ever served in Congress, and that's saying a hell of a whole lot. Wait till you hear what this dumbass actually said about embracing white supremacists in the U.S. military. Yeah. You're on YouTube, hit the like button, folks. Also, support us in what we do. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also support us by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Check in money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Books A Million. Also, download your copy on Audible. We'll be right back.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. What does it mean to actually have balance in your life? Why is it important and how do you get there? A masterclass on the art of balance. It could change your life.
Find the harmony of your life. And so what beat can you maintain at a good pace? What cadence can keep you running that marathon? Because we know we're going to have, high levels, we're going to have low levels, but where can you find that flow, that harmonious pace?
That's all next on A Balanced Life on Black Star Network.
Hi, this is Essence Atkins.
Hey, I'm Deion Cole from Blackish.
Hey, everybody, this is your man, Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
Zakayla President has been missing from her Moncks Corner, South Carolina home since January 10th. The 16-year-old is 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighs 150 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information about Zakayla President should call the Berkeley County, South Carolina Sheriff's Office at 832-719-4465, 832-719-4465. Now, on numerous occasions, y'all have heard me say the Republican Party is the party of white supremacy. It is the party of racists. It's the party that KKK supports. It's the party that neo-Nazis support. Well, guess who made that perfectly clear that he's fine with that? Is Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville. He was talking to a radio station in Alabama, and this idiot actually said this.
We're showing our adversaries we're weak. All we got to do is go back and look at Joe Biden's, what he's done to our military with the woke ideas, with the CRT that we're teaching in our military. We are losing in the military so fast, our readiness in terms of recruitment. And why? I can tell you why. Because the Democrats are attacking our military, saying we need to get out the white extremists, the white nationalists, people that don't believe in our agenda as his Joe Biden agenda. They're destroying it. This year, we will not reach any recruiting goals in the military. So if we want to talk about looking weak, that's where we're going to look weak. We cannot start putting rules in there for one type, one group, and make different factions in the military, because that is the most important institution in the United States of America and our allies, is a strong, hard-nosed killing machine, which is called our military.
You mentioned the Biden administration trying to prevent white nationalists from being in the military. Do you believe they should allow white nationalists in the military?
Well, they call them that. I call them Americans. What happened after January the 6th, and I was here on January the 6th, we were attacked on the Senate floor saying that all these people that came into the Capitol were extremists. They were against the country. There was a lot of people, there was probably 100 of them that came in, broke windows and broke doors that should have been locked up. That's not how we do it in America, but there were hundreds of thousands that didn't come in outside that were true Americans that believe in this country.
I call white supremacists Americans. Well, that is true. It is very American to be a white supremacist. It's very much white American to be a white supremacist. That's the history of this country. Those Confederate soldiers were white domestic terrorists. They were white supremacists. So we've always had that. During Jim Crow, they were white supremacists. What's interesting and what people don't understand is that Tuberville has been attacking the Black Secretary of Defense, General Lloyd Austin, a man who has won the military, who was a 4-star general. Tuberville, I think the only thing he's ever worn is a head coach's cap. That's all he's ever worn or done. So he's been attacking Austin and the Pentagon by saying that, oh, they are teaching woke, they're teaching CRT. No, actually what they're teaching, they're trying to get rid of the racist. Tuberville literally questioned whether there have been white supremacists in the United States military. Folks, there have been hearings on that. There have been numerous reports on that from the media organizations that cover the military, talking about the problem of white supremacy in the Army, in the Marines, in all of the different branches of the military. The U.S. military also bans communists. So here you have a sitting U.S. senator from racist Alabama who said, oh, they're Americans. They support Republicans. He literally is throwing his arms around white supremacists and is saying, no, we really need them in our military. That's who Alabama sent to the Senate over Doug Jones. Lauren?
Yeah, he's a coach. Just as a personal note, I appreciated the part in there where he said it was just 100 people who came into the Capitol. My boyfriend and his friends escorted his scared ass over into the Hart Building when the attack on the Capitol happened. And so Tommy Tuberville running his mouth, and you're right, Roland, he's a coach. He's a coach. That's just what he is. He has no idea what he's talking about. CRT, woke, he's just throwing out the buzzwords, throwing out the red meat, and has no idea what he's talking about from a policy standpoint. There was absolutely no detail in what he said. And I don't know why anybody should be surprised at what he said. Donald Trump, the Tea Party, the people, the actors who showed up right after Barack Obama was elected have made open racism fashionable once again. You know, it used to be that people were embarrassed to say these things out loud and in public. Now it's just sort of being said and nobody's checking them. And, you know, like, I'm not any longer surprised that people like Tuberville. The part that really I think we should look at closely is the fact that there's absolutely no reaction to what he said from anybody in the Republican Party. Absolutely no reaction. The reaction we get is from the Democratic side. The Republicans are completely comfortable with racism. They're completely comfortable with outward racism, with people knowing that they're racist, with, in fact, signaling to certain voters and supporters that that is what the plan and that is what the brand is. So this is the brand of the Republican Party. They're proud of it. They're open, and here we are.
I mean, Reese, it's no lie. After the shooting in Buffalo, the Republican Party voting against a resolution from Congressman Jamal Bowman dealing with the issue of white supremacy. What Lauren said is right. The Republican Party, their supporters, who they want, who they desire, are racist. And they are not going to call them out. Donald Trump did not want to call out racists because he knew they were voting for him. The KKK endorsed him.
Well, Donald Trump is also racist. So it's a lot easier to kowtow to the white nationalist, white supremacist crowd when you are one yourself. And why not? You know, this is what gets their base ginned up, and they know that they can put out a couple of memes and put out some disinformation and dissuade enough voters, or they believe at least that they can dissuade enough voters of every ethnicity, not just Black people, but also Latinos, who are very much targeted by disinformation campaigns and fear-mongering about communism and socialism and a number of other things. And they can just be out and open with their destruction. But the reality is that the white supremacy of the Republican Party is also a war on white people. Unfortunately, though, the white people that should be rising up against it, because what the Republican Party is doing is it's eliminating things that make them have food security, that allow them to have $35 insulin, that allow them to have roads and broadband and a number of other things. They're right along with it because they get their rocks off with all this racist rhetoric. So this is to be expected because there are no consequences for it. Until there are consequences for it, and as long as they're being rewarded for it, this is what we're going to continue to see more and more brazenly.
Lee, this was last year. This is from Vice. All 208 House Republicans thumbed their noses at an amendment to a bill that would order the government to investigate white supremacist and neo-Nazi activity in the military and federal law enforcement. So this is not just Tommy Tuberville. This is the entire Republican House, and they're the folks who now control the House.
And man, it's just so disheartening, man, because this is ignorance flourishing. This is, let's be clear, this is evil flourishing, you know, because what you're saying, Tommy, is that that Black folk or people of color are less than. You're saying we're not made in the image of God. You're saying it's okay to have a military that's fully that's full, you know, that's recruiting and people are joining, even if it means us putting white supremacists in, really for your own political power. If you listen to what he said also in that quote, he says that we are no longer basically having a killing machine called the military. You remember I talked about the violence in this nation. I mean, you know, our military, is that what we're trying to build, a killing machine? The answer is yes. That's what they are trying.
Yeah, that's exactly what they want.
That's what they want.
That's all they want. They want to be able to dispatch the military wherever they go. Now you have people like Andy Biggs, a racist in the House right now, Arizona, who said that with this bill we're creating problems that do not exist. That's interesting. Go to my iPad, Henry. This is the Pentagon. Released a report, y'all. Pentagon reveals inroads white supremacists have made in military. A soldier in the Florida National Guard who co-founded a murderous fascist group was chatting with a fellow white supremacist in the extremist Iron March online forum in 2016 when the Guard member made a remarkable statement. The Guard member said he felt free to be a neo-Nazi in the U.S. Army. That's the deal. The Pentagon makes clear that there are neo-Nazis and white supremacists in the military. We know for a fact that there are neo-Nazis and white supremacists, Proud Boy members in law enforcement in this country, and the Republican Party has made it clear we are perfectly fine with those racists in law enforcement and the military. So anytime you have these Black conservatives who come here and say, hey, vote for Trump, what they're saying is vote for the people who love and endorse white supremacists and neo-Nazis and who do not want them removed because they literally voted against this very bill. And they can't deny it because they did it. They did it. All right, folks, we'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, nurses are the backbone of the healthcare industry, and yet only 7% of them are Black. What's the reason for that low number? Well, a lack of opportunities and growth in their profession. Joining us on the next Get Wealthy is Needy Barnanilli. She's going to be sharing exactly what nurses need to do and what approach they need to take ownership of their success.
So the Black Nurse Collaborative really spawned from a place and a desire to create opportunities to uplift each other, those of us in the profession, to also look and reach back and create pipelines and opportunities for other nurses like us.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Hi, I'm BB Winans.
Hi, I'm Kim Burrell.
Hi, I'm Carl Payne.
Hey, everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble.
All right, folks, a former Louisville Metro Police Department officer has pled guilty to violating an individual's rights by using excessive force while acting as a police officer. Richard Ross Weedo confessed to deploying a foam round from his 40-millimeter direct impact munition into a group of protesters after a bottle was thrown from the back of the crowd on May 30th, 2020. Of course, we were protesting the shooting death of Breonna Taylor. The foam round hit someone's face in front of the crowd. Weedo admitted he had not identified who threw the bottle and was aiming his weapon at peaceful protesters. He pled guilty to one misdemeanor count of using unreasonable force. His guilty plea carries a maximum fine of $100,000 as part of the plea agreement. If the court accepts it, Weedo will forfeit his Kentucky law enforcement certification and agree not to seek any future law enforcement employment. That should be mandatory in all of these cases, Lauren.
It should be, but it is not. And of course, as we know, police have a great deal of latitude around almost everything that they do. And I'm surprised that there was actually action taken in this case.
Unfortunately, we've seen this all the time. Again, these are people protesting the death there of Breonna Taylor. Now, former Minneapolis police officer's guilty plea to assaulting a man during the 2020 George Floyd protest guarantees that he'll never work as a law enforcement officer again. Justin Stetson pled guilty to third-degree assault and misconduct of a police officer. In exchange for his plea, Stetson's sentence will be stayed for 2 years, pending several conditions, including he never seeks work as a police officer again. Stetson acknowledged his role in repeatedly punching, kicking, and kneeing Jaleel Stallings in the head and face while on the ground during this May incident. Stetson and other officers were enforcing the curfew when they saw 4 people in a parking lot. One was Stallings, an Army veteran with a gun permit. The officers opened fire with rubber bullets, hitting Stallings in the chest. Stallings fired 3 shots at the officer's unmarked van, but didn't hurt anyone. He believed civilians attacked him, so he fired back in self-defense. When Stallings realized they were cops, he put the gun down and surrendered. Stallings suffered a fractured eye socket. He filed an objection with the court, calling Stetson's deal too lenient, saying it fails to hold him accountable by not sending him to prison.
Good reason, Paul. Truthfully, I saw this as an opportunity to rebuild trust between both the law enforcement community and the civilian community, and I didn't see that happening. I felt like I was held to a higher level of accountability than anybody else involved in the incident. As of today, I will have served more days in jail as a direct result of the incident than any of the other involved parties, and I'm the innocent party. As well as it's a bunch of different things. I feel like this doesn't deter any other officers who may not take their oath seriously from following their footsteps and not living by their oath in the law. because I feel like this is pretty much just a slap on the wrist. And it also puts the public in our communities in a situation where they may feel like the justice system doesn't have their back. If something happens to me, they're just going to let this guy walk free, and they don't really take it seriously. So
Stallings was charged and acquitted. The city of Minneapolis also paid Stallings a $1.5 million settlement last year. Lee, I think this is a pretty good idea. Every time you have one of these cases, these DAs should make it a part that these cops no longer get to be a cop again. And again, this is what happens when people protest, when you fight for social justice, because we're finally seeing cops held accountable for their shameful behavior.
Absolutely, man. Whenever you can see an officer have some level of accountability, again, just like Jalil just mentioned, it meant it for me. It didn't go far enough, but at least you're able to see some sense of some quasi justice in this matter. But you know what this story, what the previous one as well is all saying is not just training, because you know a lot of times we got to do more training, more crisis intervention training, more de-escalation training, et cetera, et cetera. But what these cases are saying, and really is represented all around the country, is that you just really have a lot of people who should never have ever been in law enforcement from the very beginning. Some people you can't train to do a good job because they shouldn't have never been in the job as well. And I think time and time again we find that. And so we got to figure out how do we have a better filter for people who are joining law enforcement at whatever level around the country to make sure that we're getting the right people in the job. I understand they're going in. You'll hear the old adage of when they go through a door, they never know what's behind that door. They don't know if they're coming home that night. We get that. I respect that. I honor our law enforcement officers around the country at all levels. But here's the reality. My nervousness is, do we have the right people in position? And even for the position that I held when I was in my role as a elected official, I oversaw a police department with 1,000 officers. Right. But even in that moment, if I was ever driving on my own when I didn't have security detail, I was still just as nervous as anybody else.
Got it.
Because what happens if that officer didn't know who I was, at that moment? And you just never know how things pop off and what may go from there.
All right, the Texas U.S. Army Sergeant Governor Greg Abbott wants to pardon is going to spend 25 years in prison. Remember, he was convicted for killing a white Black Lives Matter protester. Daniel Perry was convicted of murdering Garrett Foster. That took place in 2020. He faced up to 99 years in prison. Sheila Foster, Garrett's mother, praised District Court Judge Clifford Brown for finally getting justice for her son after 3 long years. Again, this is the racist, Reese, that the governor of Texas immediately said he was going to pardon after white supremacist and racist Tucker Carlson demanded he do so on Fox News.
Well, we've seen time and time again where white supremacists are willing to disregard and say white lives do not matter when those white lives are fighting for the value of Black lives. Because a lot of these white supremacists that we have seen now go to court and be convicted or, in Kyle Rittenhouse's case, acquitted, are people who have killed white people. And as long as they are standing in solidarity with Black people, they get their N-word treatment. And so I think that the judge, obviously a Black judge, that's why it's important who these judges are in these positions, is not deterred by Abbott's plea or Abbott's pledge to pardon the person who committed this crime, because the reality is that this vigilantism is something that should not be tolerated, but that's exactly what people like Abbott and DeSantis and Kemp and others and Trump want to continue to stoke.
All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. When we come back, speaking of Trump, last night, CNN had a town hall that featured this lying idiot. It was beyond despicable. We're going to deconstruct this for you and show you what should have happened if you had an experienced journalist who knew how to ask questions, and if you had a network that chose to produce it in a way to show people real facts. Yeah, I got something to say. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
It's Kim Whitley.
Yo, what's up? This your boy Ice Cube.
Hey, yo, Peace World. What's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
All right, folks. So last night, the folks at CNN decided to have a town hall with a lying, racist, bigoted, sexist, sexual assaulting, tax cheating, misogynistic thug of a person named Donald Trump. Then they chose to hire a former right-wing reporter for the Daily Caller, who they made their White House correspondent, who they made their morning anchor, who is now their 9 p.m. show host, who was grossly inexperienced to handle the job as the one to do the town hall. What happened last night was literally just a host of lie after lie after lie after lie. And then CNN is also today trying to act like, oh my God, that was a masterful job of, in fact, Poppy Harlow tweeted that Caitlin Collins put on a master class in interviewing. If anybody took that class, your ass would get an F. I don't know how they thought that was a master class. There was nothing master or class about that. If you want to understand, so I'm going to deconstruct a number of things that were said last night, and I need you to understand what happens if you were a real experienced and prepared journalist. Because see, here's the first thing, okay? CNN knew they were booking a liar. The man lies about lies. And so when a person lies about lies, they gonna lie. That's what they gonna do every time. So going in, he gonna start lying from the beginning. And so you must be prepared to deal with a lie. Do y'all understand why Republicans don't like coming on my show? It's because they're used to lying. The problem is I don't let people lie on my show. You literally have to present factual information or I will stop you in your tracks. You don't get to just spew lie after lie after lie. In the first 2 minutes and 11 seconds, Donald Trump unleashed a litany of lies, and but Mr. President, that really wasn't true. And that's how she sounded. And CNN is like, oh my God, she was amazing. Watch the first part of this. Watch this.
President Trump, thank you for your time here
you.
tonight. We got a great crowd here in New Hampshire, a lot of voters with a lot of questions about what your 2024 term would look like, what another Trump term would look like. We'll get to the voters shortly, but your polls show that you are dominating the Republican race right now, but you are also under active federal investigation for trying to overturn the 2020 election results. Your first term ended with a deadly riot at the Capitol, and you still have not publicly acknowledged the 2020 election results.
Okay, stop right there. Now, she goes, you're under federal investigation. No, a real journalist would have said, first and foremost, you're under federal investigation. You have been convicted in New York State Court for your organization, Trump Organization, cheating on its taxes. You have been indicted by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. You are under investigation by Fulton County DA Fannie Willis. You were found liable just yesterday by a court in New York for sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll. That's how you open it up. You lay all of those things out. Then Caitlin goes into asking him, oh, but you haven't said that the 2020 election was fair. The man has been lying about it since he lost. You think all of a sudden, because you showing up in an Olivia Pope white suit, that all of a sudden he's going to just go, hey, guess what, Caitlin? You're right. It was a fair election. No. Press play.
Why should Americans put you back in the White House?
Because we did fantastically. We got
Stop right there. Not sure why my microphone keeps popping out, but it's all good. So here's the whole deal. You ask an open-ended question. First rule of journalism, never ask open-ended questions. She should have said, why? Why should anyone remotely look at you as a front runner when you are under investigation in all of these places and you consistently lie about the 2020 election? Not what she did. She let him say all of this.
More votes than we had in, as you know, in 2016. I actually say we did far better in that election. Got the most that anybody's ever gotten as a sitting president of the United States. I think that when you look at that result and when you look at what happened during that election, unless you're a very stupid person, you see what happens. A lot of the people in this audience, and maybe a couple that don't, but most people understand what happened. That was a rigged election, and it's a shame that we had to go through it. It's very bad for our country. All over the world, they looked at it, and they saw exactly what everyone else saw. You look, even if you just look recently with the 51 intelligence agents, that made a 16-point difference. If you look at the FBI, and Twitter, they call it Twitter files, made a big difference. If you look at
Mr. President, back to what you just said there, though, it was not a rigged election. It was not a stolen election. You and your supporters lost more than 60 court cases on the election. It's been nearly 2.5 years. Can you publicly acknowledge that you did lose the 2020 election?
Stop. Okay. Can you publicly acknowledge you lost it? The man just sat there in front of you and said it was rigged. What the hell are you doing? And then she goes, oh, well, I mean, so you had 60 lawsuits. No, Caitlin, this is how you say it. Donald Trump, there were more than 60 cases. Your team lost all of them. Your firm, you hired 2 firms to look into election rigging, and they concluded there was no fraud. Then she brings up Republican officials say, I hate that phrase. Play it.
Let me just go on. If you look at True the Vote, they found millions of votes on camera, on government cameras.
Stop right there. He mentions True the Vote, a crackpot organization. Does Caitlin say, Donald Trump, True the Vote has no credibility whatsoever? No, she doesn't. She lets him keep talking. Press play.
They were stuffing ballot boxes. So with all of that, I think it's a shame that what happened. I think it's a very sad thing for our country. I think it's a very sad thing, frankly, for the world, because if you look at what's gone to our country has gone to hell. Our borders are bad. Our military has been bad. You look at the taxes. You look at inflation. What's happened to inflation? It's just destroying our country.
Now, she goes, do y'all have the part where she mentions Republican officials? She goes, oh, Republican officials, you know, he's like, well, who? She goes, oh, Republican officials like in Georgia. Really? Is that what you said? Again, this is how you respond to that. Which Republican officials? The Republican Secretary of State in Pennsylvania, the Republican Secretary of State in Georgia, the Republican Governor Brian Kemp in Georgia, the Republican Governor in Arizona, the Republican Governor and Secretary of State in Arizona State. You literally name them, and you go down the line, all of those people who said, and you say, your Attorney General, Bill Barr, you go down the line, and then you actually say, you actually name the Republicans in Congress. You don't go, Republican officials. No. That's not what you do. And then there's a point in there when he brings up Georgia, what took place in Georgia. That's clip 30, okay? We have that one. So here's him discussing Georgia. Again, what CNN should have done is use on-screen graphics, played actual sound bites of individuals who are Republican saying Donald Trump is a liar. Play.
To another investigation that you're facing, which is the one that's happening in Georgia, where they are investigating your efforts to overturn the election results in the state of Georgia.
I did nothing wrong. It was a perfect phone call.
Let me finish my question. At the center of that is that call that you had with the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger.
Yeah, sure.
Given the fact that there are indictments expected to come in that case this summer, is that a call you would make again today?
Yeah, I called questioning the election. I thought it was a rigged election. I thought it had a lot of problems. I had I guess he's Secretary of State. I called. Listen to this. There are like 7 lawyers on the call, many of them from there. We're having a call. We're having a normal call. Nobody said, oh, gee, he shouldn't have said that. Why? If this call was bad, I questioned the election.
You
if
asked
this
him to
call
find
was
you
bad,
votes.
I didn't ask him to find anything.
Stop
right
there. She goes, you asked for votes. He goes, I didn't ask for votes. She goes, there's an audio tape. No, CNN. You do what I'm about to do. Press play.
This
Mr.
call
President,
was
there's
bad.
an audio of you asking him to find you.
No, the audio. You play the audio. That's what you do.
Look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won you this morning, and you said, well, there was no criminality, but I mean, all of this stuff is very dangerous stuff. When you talk about no criminality, I think it's very dangerous for you to say the right answer, Brad, instead of keep saying that the numbers are right. So look, can you get together tomorrow? And Brad, we just want the truth. It's simple. And everyone's going to look very good if the truth comes out. It's okay. It takes a little while, but let the truth come out. And the real truth is I won by 400,000 votes.
Then what you do, you play Raffensperger saying he asked us to find votes. And then you say, Donald Trump, you just, on that audio call, you asked them to find votes, yet you just stood right here and lied to us saying, no, you didn't. That's how you hold somebody accountable if you're going to have a town hall. You literally play the damn video. You play the video. So January 6th came up. January 6th came up. And so he was asked about January 6th. He was asked about, so we're going to play the first January 6th soundbite. And again, I just want y'all to understand how you are supposed to question a liar. Listen.
Do you have any regrets about your actions on January 6th?
Well, you know.
Okay, again, a dumbass open-ended question. We already know he has no regrets. So why in the hell would you go, do you have any regrets about January 6th? No! What you say is, Donald Trump, X number of cops were viciously beaten that day. X number of cops suffered significant injuries. According to Capitol Police, a number of them have still yet to return to the force. X number of people have been arrested for their actions. They have been found guilty in court. And you name them, and you list them, and you say it continues. And then you say, are you proud of what you did on January 6th? You don't ask an open-ended question. You have to ask the question by stating the net result of his actions on January 6th. Press play.
January 6th was, again, we go back to it, but January 6th had to do with the fact that hundreds of thousands of people, and you don't see the pictures very often. A lot of the people here probably were there. January 6th, it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. That was prior to the walk down to the Capitol building. I don't think, and I've spoken to hundreds of thousands of people. I've never spoken to a crowd as large as this. And that was because they thought the election was rigged. And they were there proud.
Get ready for 13.
With love in their heart. That was an unbelievable, and it was a beautiful day.
Really? They had such love in their heart. That is, if you were a real producer, you cut to the video of them beating, macing, tearing through barricades. He was asked about Proud Boys. Press play.
But when you said you are considering pardoning a large portion of those charged with crimes on January 6th, does that include the 4 Proud Boys members who were charged and convicted of seditious conspiracy?
I don't know. I'd have to look at their case, but I will say in Washington, D.C., you cannot get a fair trial. You cannot. Just like in New York City, you can't get a fair trial either.
So you're saying the legal system not fair. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So, so check this out. Loves cops, huh? Well, he got an Ashley Babbitt question. Clip 16. Listen to this and listen to how Caitlyn just sat there like a bump on a log and did not respond.
But I think the reason the timeline is so critical here, because going back to your influence, in that 3 hours, over 140 officers were injured that day.
And a person named Ashley Babbitt was killed.
Yes.
You know what? She was killed, and she shouldn't have been killed. And that thug that killed her, there was no reason to shoot her. At blank range, cold blank range, they shot her, and she was a good person. She was a patriot. There was no reason. And he went on television to brag about the fact that he killed her.
The officer was not bragging about the fact that he killed her, but
bragging.
one person who was at the...
Okay, straight lie. This is what she should have said. Really? Here's the clip of Ashley Babbitt that day on January 6th. And then you say, Donald Trump, was the door barricaded? Were they told not to enter? Why, if she was a patriot, why was she trying to break into a barricaded door at the U.S. Capitol? And why are you calling her a patriot and you're calling that officer a thug, the officer whose job was to protect members of Congress, including your vice president? That is how you ask the question. But that's not what happened. And so what CNN did, CNN literally gave free rein to this man to lie in front of a group of Republicans in New Hampshire who was clapping and applauding and cheering, They platformed his lies, and they literally had a grossly inexperienced person asking the questions. There are other women at CNN, Erin Burnett is one, who could have actually hosted the town hall, done a better job. There are folks like Jim Acosta, who he hates, who could have done a better job. But that's not what CNN's intent was. I'm gonna go to a break. When we come back, I'm gonna play for you the call this morning that Chris Licht, the CEO, chairman of CNN, said to his troops. If you thought Trump was delusional, wait till you hear what Chris Licht had to say. They gotta be having or spoken the same pipe, because both of them are out of their minds. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
That was a pivotal time. I remember Kevin Hart telling me that. He's like, man, what you doing, man? You got to stay on stage. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm young, thinking, like, I'm good. And he was absolutely right.
What show was you at the time?
This was one-on-one.
Got it.
During that time.
So you're doing one-on-one, going great, you making money, you like...
I'm like, I don't need to leave. I don't need to leave from, Wednesday, Thursday to Sunday. I didn't want to do that. It was just like, I'm gonna stay here. Or I didn't want to finish work Friday, fly out, go do a gig Saturday, Sunday. I was like, I don't have to do that. And I lost a little bit of that hunger that I had in New York. I would hit all the clubs, run around. Sometimes me and Chappelle or me and this one or that one, we go to the Comedy Cellar at 1 in the morning. And that was our life. We loved it. You do 2 shows in Manhattan, go to Brooklyn, leave Brooklyn, go to Queens, go to Jersey. And I got complacent. I was like, I got this money, I'm good. I don't need to go chase that, because that money wasn't at the same level that I was making, but what I was missing was that training.
Yes.
Was that.
And it wasn't the money.
It was the money. It was that's what I needed.
Impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network. My name is Charlie Wilson.
Hi, I'm Sally Richardson-Whitfield.
And I'm Dondre Whitfield. Hey, everybody, this is your man, Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
So CNN is like, oh my God, this was wonderful, this was amazing, it was great. Caitlyn was just unbelievable. That literally is what the chairman of CEO, Chris Licht, said today on their morning call. You want to hear delusion? Press play.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. I want to kick off by congratulating Caitlyn for what I can only call a masterful performance last night. I couldn't be more proud of her and the team that supported us on the ground and back home. Tough to imagine anyone navigating such a tricky assignment with more ease than Caitlyn. She asked tough questions, followed up, fact-checked again in real time, and as you can see, that was not an easy feat. I am aware that there has been people with opinions / backlash, and that is absolutely expected. And I will say this as clearly as I possibly can. You do not have to like the former president's answers, but you can't say that we didn't get them. Caitlyn pressed them again and again, and made a lot of news. Take a look. I think Axios probably did the best job of just laying out everything that is new that we learned about a guy who could very well be the guy who's challenging Joe Biden for president and could quite possibly be president again. And I think it's very important that we learned his positions on Ukraine, January 6th, abortion, the election results, pardon pardoning people. There is so much that we learned last night about what a second Trump presidency would look like, that is incredibly important for the country to hear. That is our job, is to get those answers and to hold them accountable in a way that no news organization has done literally in years. And while we all may have been uncomfortable hearing people clapping, that was also an important part of the story, because the people in that audience represent a large swath of America. And the mistake the media made in the past is ignoring that those people exist, just like you cannot ignore that President Trump exists. So the idea of doing so, I believe, is an overcorrection of the days when we gave him unfettered rally coverage and showed podiums. So we all know covering Donald Trump is messy and tricky, and it will continue to be messy and tricky, but it's our job. We're going to do it fairly, toughly, and aggressively, as Caitlin did last night. I absolutely, unequivocally believe America was served very well by...
America was served. First of all, if I'm Jim Acosta or some of the other people at CNN who was holding Donald Trump accountable for the 4 years he was in the Oval Office, I would be pissed off to hear the CEO say the media did not hold him accountable before. Oh, in years. I would be mad as hell if I'm out there kicking his ass and doing my job, and this guy all of a sudden claims, oh, now last night Caitlin Collins was really holding him accountable. Lauren, I'm gonna go to you first. What we saw was journalistic malpractice. What we saw was a poorly produced town hall. What we saw was someone grossly unprepared for the litany of lies. And if they actually call that live fact-checking, they clearly never watched this show if you want to see live fact-checking.
Yeah, I had not heard that audio, Roland. I had read stories with the audio, but the fact that he had said we'd learned so much. I mean, remember, Chris Licht comes from entertainment. And as somebody who worked at ABC News when it went from Cap Cities to Disney, I know what that looks like. We had Michael Eisner come in and not give an F about serious news and dismantle Nightline. Chris Licht is from the entertainment world. And frankly, after listening to that, I'm pretty convinced he has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. Your analysis is excellent as usual, Roland. But the central question I think we have to think about is, was what CNN, were they doing entertainment or were they doing news journalism? Because I don't think they actually know what they were doing. I think David Zaslaw and John Malone and Chris Licht and Caitlin Collins are committed to putting Trump out and platforming him in a way that will get him even with Joe Biden by the time we get to this time of the year next year. I think that's their goal, because what I think we're watching was a strategic business decision to get somebody in the game that they make money off of. They make money off of Donald Trump, or at least they perceive that they're going to make money off Donald Trump, because that's what they did before. This moment happens to arrive right at the time when CNN's ratings are plummeting. They had a 10-year low. They laid off a bunch of people in Q4 last year. They got rid of that CNN Plus thing because that was a complete disaster. You saw Chris Cuomo is gone, Don Lemon is gone, and now they have ratings that are tanking. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, right at that time when the ratings are tanking, they decide to get the worst president of the United States, who's been criminally convicted, who is obviously a sexist, who is obviously a fascist.
No, he's been civilly convicted. He's been civilly convicted.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
He's been civilly convicted. That we know who he is. Everybody knows who Donald Trump is. There are no mysteries here. Okay, and they put him on TV and they platformed him. And frankly, I think what's going on is that we're watching the slow, tedious demise of cable news in the form of CNN. They know their ratings are gone. They know their market share is gone. They know their viewership is down. And now we're making a decision to put somebody on who is dangerous so that we can have spectacle and ratings and make money off the spectacle. That is what they are doing, right in front of everybody's face. And the idea that Caitlin Collins was so great. I mean, I know they're trying to gaslight us. I know they're friends. We've got friends in the news business. You know, we've all been, Roland, I know you've been at, you know, I've been at major companies where you're sitting in the company and you're doing what you do for your friends that are up there. But I suspect there will be a staff mutiny. That is my prediction. There are too many people in CNN who are serious journalists, who I know for a fact looked at that last night. You could see the look in the eye of Anderson Cooper and Jake last night. They knew that they had effed up. They knew this was trash. And there's just no way it can hold, because you have a bunch of serious journalists sitting there, and then you have this thing last night that makes absolutely no sense.
Here's the thing, Reese. First of all, we are in May. We're in May. So this idea that, oh yeah, let's go ahead and do this town hall now. Are you serious? I mean, like, are you really, really that serious? And again, it wasn't like it was a town hall of undecided voters. It was literally a Trump pep rally. That's exactly what it was. The laughing, the giggling. And then he goes, oh, well, the media acted as if these people never existed. I'm sorry, were you too busy on the Colbert Show? Weren't you the executive producer of Morning Joe? Again, Chris Licht, Morning Joe kissed his ass for a very long time in 2015, 2016. We knew Hillary Clinton called them deplorables. We know exactly who they are. We've seen enough New York Times articles about fucking diners in the Midwest to know who the hell these people are. We already know all of this other stuff. And so we can go over and over and over again. What we're dealing with here, again, are folks who act as if we're stupid. No, we know exactly why you had Donald Trump on, and it was a joke of a town hall, period.
I couldn't agree more with you or Lauren, but this was about more than just Trump. Keep in mind that Caitlin Collins is a I guess, so-called reformed radical Republican who was a part of Daily Caller, which was formed by Tucker Carlson, a right-wing website. She was the regular on Fox News, spewing her white nationalist talking points. And so what CNN is trying to do is launch her with this white girl boss, white girl magic power suit moment with the president facing, our former president, disgraced president, facing off as though she is going to conquer the world in her suffragette white. It's a joke, but it's something that, you know, Chris Licht has made a number of questionable decisions that they are betting the farm on. And so I mean, obviously there's no urgency with this, like you said, with the primaries probably being a little bit under a year out. But the urgency is that they're trying to move her, and it's been announced, into the 9 p.m. primetime slot. They already didn't kick the black man out. They done kicked the white man out. And so now they're going to go with their 31-year-old white Republican woman that they're trying to rehabilitate into being a mainstream newscaster. And I don't think that it's going to work. She's going to flop just like everything else is flopping over there on CNN.
Got to go to a break. We come back. Lee going to get a response. Rebecca Aguilar, the Media past president, South professional journalist, is also going to. She's also with us as well. She's been tweeting about what we witnessed last night. And for anybody out there who may say, oh man, Roland, you hating. First of all, I've been gone from CNN for 10 years. The issue here, folks, this ain't hating, but I'm telling y'all, mainstream white media is doing the exact same thing they did 8 years ago that led to Trump going into the White House. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Up next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, we're going to talk to Leslie Segar, a.k.a. Big Les, and talk about her incredible career as a dancer, choreographer, and VJ of Rap City.
Magic Johnson was there, so half the NBA was there. Iman the supermodel, so all the supermodels were there every day. Actors,
right.
Like it was a who's who of who's who.
Right here on The Frequency in the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause
Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hey, I'm Cupid, the maker of the Cupid Shuffle and the Wham Dance.
What's going on? This is Tobias Trevelyan. And if you're ready, you are listening to and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Why did you take those documents with you when you left the White House?
I had every right to under the Presidential Records Act. You have the Presidential Records Act. I was there, and I took what I took, and it gets declassified. Biden, on the other hand, he has 1,850 boxes. He had boxes sent to Chinatown, where they don't speak even English in that Chinatown we're talking about.
Can I got to stop you right there,
nobody talks about him, they
because
talk about us. Just so you understand, I had every right to do it. I didn't make a secret of it. You know, the boxes were stationed outside of the White House. People were taking pictures of the GSA and the various people.
I got to stop you right there, though, because the
moving.
Presidential Records Act, which is not well known to a lot of people, I read it. It does not say that you can take documents with you. It says actually that they are the property of the federal government.
It says you talk, you negotiate, you make a deal. It's not criminal, by the way.
Y'all, this is real simple, okay? I'm not about to argue about the Presidential Records Act. Again, a real host and a real producer goes, first of all, you don't say, I got to stop you there and let them keep talking for 30 more seconds. What you say is, oh, let's see what the Presidential Record Act says. That's what you do. You literally call it up. You literally put it on the screen, and you actually read it in front of them, and it says, and that's when you say, hey, Donald, it says right here, blah, 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 blah. You did not do that. That's how you rebut lies, Chris Licht, Caitlin Collins. Lee, your perspective as a former elected official on that mess of a town hall last night.
Well, first of all, brother, I want you to just kind of relax.
Oh, no, Lee. First of all, this is relaxed.
This is relaxed.
Oh, no, this ain't. I've been way more animated. Oh, I'm very relaxed.
Oh, I know.
So I don't need to woosah. See, Chris, Lee, you got to understand something. See, you said, Lee, you're a preacher. This is my pulpit.
I got you.
This is where I drop the word, and I'm trying to warn everybody who's watching. I'm trying to warn people because I'm telling you, if we allow this to continue with other networks, these people could very well be back in control. And if you thought January 6th was bad, that pales in comparison to what these evil, demonic imps plan to do if he's back in.
Yeah, this ain't my point is this. My point is this, Roland. My point is this. I don't know a whole lot about journalism. That's your lane.
I do. Been doing it since I was 14 years old.
I know. I can tell very clearly that this has nothing to do with journalism. And I think you've hit it right on the head. This was an economic decision that CNN made. This was a ratings decision. Chris Licht said that we learned a lot of new stuff. Man, everything that I heard, because I didn't watch the interview because I knew what it was, but everything that I've listened to, even right here, sitting down right now, I learned nothing new. And we knew this is what he was going to be saying. We knew where he stood on January 6th. We knew where he stood on the election. We knew he didn't say anything. That what they did was they gave him a platform to continue to spew that. And I believe exactly what you said earlier. This is an effort to make the election closer than it ever should be. This is an intentional effort, because if this election is closer than it is right now, that bodes well for them in the ratings. It bodes well for them economically as well. And
Well, here's the deal. Rebecca Aguilar is the immediate past president, society professional journalist. Rebecca is a freelance reporter out of Dallas. And Rebecca, look, Chris Licht has his mandate. He wants CNN to appeal to more Republicans. He's made that perfectly clear. That's what David Zaslav wants, because that's what John Malone, the largest individual stockholder in Warner Discovery, actually wants. And so that's why they've gotten rid of opinionated programming, all those different things. And guess what? That's fine. CNN, first of all, has been there before, this whole idea we're going to be down the middle. That was the case when I was there. They would not have opinionated programming. And then when Jim Walton was worldwide CEO. So that ain't nothing new. But here is the fundamental issue, Rebecca, again, that is dangerous for the public. When you knowingly, when you know the moment before that person walks in the door, you know they're lying. When you know that they are going to gaslight, when you know that they're going to demean women, when you know he trashed their own host, calling her a nasty woman, a nasty person. So when you know that, there's a certain way you have to prepare for that. You've been a journalist for quite some time. You know if you got an ornery mayor or county commissioner or county judge or whatever, you know how you must prepare yourself to approach them versus a politician who actually is going to answer the questions. What we saw was CNN allow just flat out lies for almost an hour and a half.
And you know what? Thank you for the invite. They threw the lamb to the lion. That's all there is to it. This was not a town hall. It was a Trump rally. And I think what they did here is they didn't prepare Caitlin Collins for this. You have to prepare, just like you do any big assignment. You prepare, you do even practice runs. Throw me out. It's basically sometimes like if any of you guys have been to court, you know, okay, what do you do this? If he answers this, what do you say? And the problem with her is that she was not prepared. It was a poorly produced show. They have fact checkers. They have those big screens. You've seen them.
Right.
So, you know, she never took control.
And Rebecca, don't have the fact checker on in the post panel. No, you literally, as you say, and you don't go, well, let's go to so-and-so. No, in real time, if you want to do real time, you say, no, Donald, this is what you said. This is what it reads. That's what you do. You don't go, oh, I read the Presidential Records Act, and it says, no, you make him, and make his ass read it with you.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Right. You know, I think she needed one of those notebooks. When he said the lies about the wall, right? I would say, excuse me, and look, and just say it. But the biggest thing that she did not do, and again, let me just say, I think Caitlin Collins is a decent journalist. I think she has done a decent job at the White House, but she was not prepared for this job. And nothing against people who are young, because we were all that age at one time. But there comes a time
I was better than that at her age, I can tell you that.
Right. But there comes a time where you say, I can't do this. Why they didn't have Jim Acosta or Dana Bash, right? Why not them? I would like to know, and if there's any investigative reporter out there or any of my sources at CNN, I want to know, was the Trump campaign given pictures of everybody and say, who do you want? Because you know me, if I'm a strong politician, I want Collins, 30 years old. You know, you knew he was intimidating her. Here's another thing that I find hypocritical. Licht gets rid of Don Lemon on allegations of misogyny and all that other stuff. But then because he allegedly said something that made Caitlin Collins uncomfortable. But then you put her in an arena with a man who's a misogynist? The hypocrisy. And I think what angers me the most, because you've seen me tweeting, is that as journalists, you know, I am the immediate past president of the Society of Professional Journalists, a lot of journalists who work hard every day. A lot of journalists out there, we bust our ass and we want trust from the public. We tell the truth. And what happened in that town hall? All they did, there was, you're right. Masterful performance, no way in hell. She asked tough questions. She didn't follow up. She didn't push. Some producer could have gone into her ear and said, no, push back, something. We got answers. No, they got lies, lie after lie. We learned so much. We didn't learn anything else. Trump just kept spewing whatever they, and here's another thing. Stop calling them untruths. They're lies.
Right. Oh my God. But see, but again, though, here's the deal. That's the media deal. I'm telling you, I was on ABC this week, and I think it was February 2017, and this came up. And I remember all of 2015, 16, and even the first 2 years of his presidency, they were all scared to say lie. And I remember, I think it was Jake Tapper and Judy Woodruff. I think they would say, well, in order for us to know that it's a lie, we have to know at the outset the person means to do it. I said, listen, if I brought my ass home at 3 o'clock in the morning and I came up with a BS story, my dad would be like, son, why you lying? He wouldn't sit here and say, well, I need to understand what. No, he know why I'm lying. Because I came home at 3 a.m. He know the lie is coming. So we know, but they won't do it. Not one time did she say, and again, I don't call him Mr. President. I can't use that title. Not one time did she say, that's a lie. What you just said simply, and it's not just even that, Rebecca, it's also how you say it. Not one time did she say, Donald, what you just said simply is not true. This is the fact. And the way you hit somebody like him, you go, fact, read it.
Right.
Fact, read it. Fact, read it. Fact, read it. And then I am anticipating him going, well, that's fake news. And then that's when you say, so anything that you don't like, you call fake news, even though it's a fact? You gotta know what's coming when you again, an experienced person, I know what you're gonna say, I know what my rebuttal is gonna be, and I already know what your rebuttal to my rebuttal is gonna be, so I know when to come back with. And the reason you use graphics and monitors in video is because it's hard for the person, Rebecca, to lie when you say, we just heard your voice. And then you say, was that you on the phone call? Was that you on the phone call? Did you make that phone? That's how you do it. You have to box the person in, not just go, so why? No, you don't do open-ended. Rebecca, go ahead.
It's about having control. She never took control. The minute he was defaming Miss Carroll, I would say, excuse me, whether you call him Mr. Trump or not, Mr. Trump, please, you cannot be doing that. The minute she heard the audience laughing, excuse me, audience, you have to be respectful. This is not a fraternity party. This is not a concert. You have to be respectful. You use that tone and take control. She did not take control. You also have to have courage, have the balls to say, Mr. Trump, you are lying about that, and look him right in the eye.
Yep.
And number 3, have the confidence. And this is what happens, what you build confidence with experience. And you know what's really sad about this?
All right, no, hold on. I'm gonna let you finish that. You build confidence with experience and knowledge.
Exactly.
See, you can actually not have a lot of experience, but if you have the knowledge, you can hit back. The knowledge and so yes, the knowledge, the experience, and the confidence, that's a deadly potion. Go ahead.
But I also think that, I hope that her real friends at CNN will guide her through this. Because imagine being criticized like this. It's awful. It's horrible. But what's really sad, last night I'm watching, the panels. By the way, there's no Latinos on their panels. They're panels. And I hear Van Jones. Oh, she did a great job. Stop, Van Jones. Another talking head that it's like, stop. Stop trying to make her look good when she herself knows she was weak. I'm sure she does. A real journalist is going to face that reality. Yep. That doesn't mean she'll always be weak at this. But someone needs to tell her, and and Chris Licht, he needs to stop drinking his own Kool-Aid, because that's what he's doing. And all those other people, the Anderson Coopers, the Jake Tappers, they're not going to say anything. They're not going to criticize. They're going to rehash this. I mean, I'm sick of it today. They're rehashing a train wreck over and over.
Right.
But those guys aren't going to say anything because they make millions of dollars.
Rehashing a train wreck, trying to convince us it was a spectacular F1 race. Hold tight 1 second. I got to go to a break. We'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shots.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hey, everybody, it's your girl, Lunel.
So what's up? This is your boy, Earthquake.
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Lauren, this thug called January 6th a beautiful day. We saw with our own eyes what actually took place. The reason this is so bothersome is because, and I need everybody to understand what I'm about to say because this is just critically important. When Donald Trump started running, what did he do? He kept calling everything fake news. Why did he do that? Because he wanted to sow seeds of doubt and discontent. What has been created in the last 8 years is that there is a subset of people, yes, deplorables, who literally believe every lie he tells. We have undeniable truths, and these people go, "Up, didn't happen." They reject everything. They are so deranged that they were so pissed off when Fox News called Arizona, they rejected Fox News to go to Newsmax and OAN, which is even crazier than Fox News. Now, why is this important? It's because these people then go into office. There is a, and I just need everybody to understand that this is not just about Donald Trump. Let me say this again. This is not just about Donald Trump. What this thug, let me be real clear, y'all, what the news media unleashed by heralding this guy's a genius, position him to then run, is that you now have folks who are infiltrating public office all across the country. That's Moms for Liberty. Taking over school boards, firing superintendents, changing curriculum. Go to my iPad. Mark Elias tweeted this here. There is a woman right now who was one of the Stop the Steal judges. This woman right here, Patricia McCullough, who's on the ballot. This was what it says. Patricia McCullough, who was on the ballot on Tuesday, handed Donald Trump a rare legal victory in 2020 and has sided with the GOP on other election cases, only to be repeatedly struck down by the high court she now wants to join. The reason why what CNN did was so dangerous, Lauren, is because they are creating these imps, these acolytes, these supporters of Trump who now who are in state capitals, county commissions, school boards, city councils, governor's mansions, and on the federal bench.
Yeah, they're platforming and amplifying lying and deception at a time when misinformation and disinformation is huge. And it's sort of two things that collided into what you just said, Roland. One was that the election of the first black president of the United States, we started seeing these sort of fake news organizations come up from Breitbart, et cetera, and so on, and they were creating their own reality. And on the back of that was Facebook amplifying dissension and conflict to make money, and disinfo and misinfo. And where did that lead us? That led us to an attack on the U.S. Capitol. And so what that entire thing has done is it's created a reality that some people live in that others do not live in. Trump is well aware of that as somebody who's been in the media for so long, and he knows how to manipulate the media really well. The thing that I've kind of I'm struggling to figure out here is whether or not these executives at CNN actually put him on, because I am not really defining what I saw last night as a journalistic enterprise or an enterprise to protect the truth. I actually think what we saw was people who agree with Donald Trump amplifying Donald Trump. Because I have a hard time believing that John Malone at 80-something years old, who's a multi-billionaire, doesn't agree with Donald Trump. Because you do not amplify as a news organization in that way somebody that you do not agree with. So Chris Licht and Caitlin Collins, who just happens by some coincidence to have worked for Tucker Carlson over at the Daily Caller, to your points, Roland, the way she did her questioning was very open-ended. You know damn well that Donald Trump is going to steamroll what you say whatever he wants, and lie. And we don't know damn well, too, that lying works. But my bigger question for this is, was he platformed because Zaslav and Malone and Licht and Collins wanted to platform him because, in fact, they agree with him? That's the part that, because I can't imagine them putting somebody on they don't agree with and amplifying him to that extent and allowing him to say all of those things that we knew he was going to say, and then try to act like it's a big shock to them when the show is over. Well, it's not a big shock to them. Now they're gaslighting us all day trying to pretend that that worked out just fine, which of course it didn't. And as I say, the only thing that gave me hope is I could look into Anderson Cooper's eyes right when that panel started, and I could tell that he knew. I worked with him briefly at ABC a long time ago. He knew that this was wrong. I mean, it was crazy. And Laura Coates was basically about to turn the corner on the air last night and say, this is crazy, and got interrupted by Jake. So clearly there was a feeling there among the journalists, not the commentators, not Van Jones and these people who do opinion for a living. I'm talking about the journalists. They knew that what they put on the air was journalistic malpractice. Yep. Okay. I mean, you can't do that. We deal in a situation here where the Capitol just got attacked, dealing with a fascist liar, okay, who was very set to crash our democracy. Everybody knows that. Yep. And that is what they platform.
Lee, first of all, go to my iPad. Lee, here's a perfect example of what we're talking about. A right-wing takeover of a Colorado school board as some of the town's conservatives deeply concerned. When you read this particular story here, this is in Woodland Park. They came in, they hired a new superintendent, they approved a charter school without any public notice. They were so abysmal, they forgot to apply for grants that are going to fund the district. Literally, they enacted a MAGA playbook, and the district now is in total disarray. One, this happens when people don't vote. But two, this is what happens when you let nutcases come into elected office.
Absolutely. It's intentional, right? It's intentional. And I'll say this about the Republicans. And, I was in elected office at the local level, and they focus on things like the school board and county commission and these small town city councils and small time city mayors and things like that. Because guess what? They now have a platform to get elected at the next level. and then they get elected to the next level. Next thing you know, they're representing entire states and members of Congress and things like that. And it's a playbook. So let's be clear, it's a playbook. They're not coming in, making up stuff on their own. They got the Tea Party playbook, the MAGA playbook. They got the talking points that they all kind of abide by, and so you're seeing this happening all across the country. And then here's the quiet thing that maintains the power of a state, even when it doesn't adequately reflect the voters themselves. You have redistricting, right, where they get to gerrymander the lines and across the state. So in state legislatures all across the country, you have state legislatures that don't reflect the voting population because they've gerrymandered these districts to maintain the power much longer than the voting representation would bring. And so when you look at things, going back to this town hall, when you allow Donald Trump to have this platform and just have a full, I don't know how long the town hall was, quote unquote town hall was, but he had however long it was of a platform to say whatever he wanted to say. The very definition of gaslighting. He's making you believe that what you're seeing with your own eyes is not true. And so when he does that, right, guess what he's doing? He's also giving the talking points for those who are down ballot, at the state legislatures.
But also what he's doing, Lee, he's also, by running roughshod over Caitlin Collins, he's showing, see, this is how you treat them. This is how you disrespect them. This is how you diminish them. Absolutely. And it cheers their people on. Rebecca, I will go to you for the final comment here, because this is, again, and so when Lee was like, hey, calm down, no, because see, this is what I need Lee to understand.
I got you, Roland.
No, hold on. This is what I need you to understand. I literally saw this years ago, so let me explain. I was at CNN, Rebecca, from 2007 to 2013. And we were, every time they would interview Trump, I would go, why in the hell are we talking to Donald Trump? And I remember being in the Washington Bureau, going up to Stephanie Katubi, who was a booker for CNN, for Wolf Blitzer's show. And I said, why in the hell is Wolf interviewing Donald Trump? Oh, every time we talk to Donald Trump, we get great ratings. I said, but he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Why are we talking to him? Are we trying to talk to CEOs? Go talk to real CEOs with real companies. I said that. But they were enamored with going on his plane, going to Trump Tower, because they loved the batshit stuff that came out of his mouth, Rebecca. Now watch this. Now watch this. I was on CNN. Heidi Phillips was the anchor. I forgot who the other person was. And Trump came up. And this is what I actually said. I said, anytime Trump comes on CNN, we should run a crawl at the bottom that says, this is for entertainment purposes only. Rebecca, I got an email, and the email came from Ken Jouts. Ken Jouts was the executive vice president at CNN. Ken Jouts told me in an email, do not criticize Donald Trump when he is coming on our air. He sent me that email. Ken Jouts is still the executive vice president at CNN. I'm not saying Ken Jouts is a Trump supporter. What I'm saying is he literally told me not to criticize Donald Trump when he was coming on CNN. I remember when Obama was giving an economic speech or something, and Piers Morgan had Donald Trump on to rebut Obama. And I remember, because I was in Chicago, I remember being in my townhouse, and I was watching this crap, and I was tweeting, and I was like, why in the hell are we not talking to a real CEO? Why are we letting this man run his mouth? He's not running a real company. Right. Joe Scarborough has been going off on the CNN debate. Really, Joe Scarborough? You, the same Joe Scarborough and Mika, who let this man come on the air, phone in, tossing all of his BS? The same one. Here's the point that I'm making here, Rebecca. CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, Washington Post, New York magazines, all of these media outlets, they created this monster. They created this thing as he was this know-it-all who was brilliant, who was smart. Everybody talks about Jeff Zucker giving him, because he was failing, he was bankrupt, the Apprentice show. No, it was mainstream white media that propped Donald Trump up as this brilliant, self-made American businessman because they loved the crazy stuff that came out of his mouth, and it was like he's ratings gold. And Rebecca, they still think so. Les Moonves said in the 2016 election, Trump may not be good for America, but he's good for CBS. They know why they are doing this. And there is no journalist, producer, booker, executive in TV, radio, or newspaper, or magazine, or digital. If they aided the rise of Donald Trump, they cannot stand today on their moral high horse unless, Rebecca, they apologize for creating and giving America this monster. You have the final word.
Yeah, they have to recognize their hypocrisy. They have to realize that they allowed this man, they helped this man become president. It was 24/7. And yes, CNN could say we got 3 million viewers last night, and it was a business move also. But what's really terrible about this is that they hurt journalists, good journalists. All these places that you named, yeah, there were the enablers, the Trump enablers, and then there was the other group, right? The ones that are at the mass shootings, flushing out other stuff around the country. I'm glad you showed local reports, because thank God for local reporters, because they're outing some of these people. You know, one of the things at SPJ is we have the Code of Ethics. The Code of Ethics, go to spj.org, and it says it is clear. Seek truth and report it. Minimize harm. Yesterday, there was so much harm that Trump rally created, right? Act independently. There was no acting independently. He owned them last night. Trump owned CNN. And then there was be accountable and transparent. Just hearing Licht today on that recording, he's not being accountable. He's not being transparent. He's living in his little bubble. And, you know, one of the other guests said, well, you know, everybody's controlling everything. Here's the deal. Chris Licht is someone's puppet from above. Caitlin Collins is Chris Licht's puppet. You know, he's the puppeteer. And I don't know if Caitlin Collins is, you know, on the Trump agenda. I do feel that she was the easy one to put in there and, you know, move her like a little puppet. Because as you see, Roland, and you know, she was scripted. She wasn't even listening. She was trying to follow each question. And again, who wrote those questions? The producers. If I'm there, I'm looking into every producer, every executive producer, every supervising producer, who wrote this and why. And if I'm Caitlin Collins, I would go to each one of them and say, why did you make me look like a fool? Because it will be out in YouTube and out in the world forever. Forever. But what CNN did last night is they hurt us, the true journalists who care about the truth, who care about helping the public. Chris Licht did not serve the public. He did them wrong. He did them wrong.
Rebecca Aguilar, Lee May, Lauren Victoria Burke, I appreciate it. Reese Cobra had to go. I appreciate Reese as well. Here's my final comment on this, folks, and it's very simple. You've heard me say this on this show numerous times. If you do good, I'll talk about you. If you do bad, I'll talk about you. At the end of the day, I'll talk about you. Why did Philip and why did David Lowery and why did a lot of these black conservatives, why do they get so mad at me? Because I won't let them lie. I won't let them come on this show and feed us their talking points and not deal with fact. See, y'all may even realize, again, I simply cannot let lies stand or erroneous information. Hey, when Lauren was talking, Lauren made a comment about criminal, and I said, no, it's civil. That was a brief fact check. Why? Why did I do that? Because if you're watching the show If you're listening to this podcast, if you hear something on this show and then you hear me say nothing, you'll go, hey, what I heard was true. And so I wasn't mad at her, wasn't demeaning, but it was simply, no, it wasn't criminal, it was civil. Because it's about facts, it's about truth. And the problem is, when you have a known liar walking through the door, that I must gird myself for battle, because I'm not battling him, I'm battling the lies. Because there are people who are watching. There are mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews and cousins and church members and sorority members and fraternity members and farmers and doctors and lawyers and engineers, the people who are actually watching, and they are seeking truth. And one of the fundamental problems in journalism is that we have too many people who are in the position that I'm in who don't know shit. And they're depending upon some producer in the control room to feed them questions and feed them answers, or walk up to them and handing them blue cards with the facts on it, because they do not read. And so what do a lot of these politicians hate? They hate it when you are the person and you actually have done your homework, because they can't get one over on you. That's why it is called preparation. That's why it is called getting ready. And the problem that we have, we played it the other day when the reporter in the news conference asked President Joe Biden a question about Kevin McCarthy and the Republicans' bill dealing with the debt limit, and he goes, what's in it? What's in it? She couldn't even tell him. She was asking the President of the United States a question regarding the bill of the Republicans, and she had not even read the bill. And that's a White House correspondent.
Thank you.
Supposedly, the creme de la creme. Supposedly, the top of the heap. And so what then happens when we don't give the public correct information? They run with lies. They run with lies. I'm not going to play the clip, but if you go to Twitter, and I rarely give Steve Doocy any credit, but this morning on Fox News, Steve Doocy challenged Congressman James Comer and saying, you have circumstantial evidence against President Biden, but you do not have any factual information. Of all the people on Fox and Friends, not that idiot Ainsley, not that idiot Brian Kilmeade, but Doocy, who really is dumb, he literally was like, y'all do not have the goods. And they stuck to it. Y'all, Kellyanne Conway said alternative facts, and no such thing exists. It's either true or it isn't. And that is the only standard that will exist on this show and on this network. And if there is a host on this network who does not abide by that principle, they will not be on this network. And I will not allow people to come on my show and knowingly lie and spread it thinking it's true when we know it isn't. Because I have too much respect for the audience to allow them to move forward in life having to listen to somebody lie and I say nothing. Chris Licht, Caitlin Collins, CNN, do better, because somebody is watching and listening. They're expecting you to be better. Folks, support us in what we do. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to support us in what we do. Your dollars make it possible for us to do this here. See, this is why I'm not on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or ABC or NBC or CBS, and we ain't trying to go over there because we don't have to ask. We don't have to, look, you already heard what Lauren said. Jake and Anderson couldn't say nothing they really wanted to say last night because they got bosses. Well, the only boss I got is God. And so we want you to support us in what we do, because we are trying to give you stuff you're not going to get from those networks. Check your money order. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Brownie of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Bookshop Chapters, Books A Million, Target. Download your copy on Audible. Folks, I will see you tomorrow right here on the Black Star Network. Holla! Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat at the Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.